Once upon a time, there lived a prince and a snake. No, wait, a bird. A prince and a bird. Was it a bird? Oh, a bird catcher. You know what? It's a weird show, so maybe just grab yourself a big old dose of suspending reality and let's dive into one of Mozart's most famous operas, the Magic Flute. Today, on Scores Unstitched. At first glance, the Magic Flute kind of seems like a fairy tale that got left on the Grimm brothers' cutting room floor, but the giant snakes and the dancing bears and the not really all that funny, outdated humor are more than they seem. We follow Pamina, a princess who has been kidnapped, and Tamino, a prince who has been sent on a quest to rescue her. And I have just noticed that their names are exactly the same. The prince and his sidekick, a bird catcher, not a bird, get a magic flute that's supposed to help them rescue her, but then while they're trying to do that, they get sucked into this like secret society ritual brotherhood sort of thing, and chaos ensues. It's weird. I'm not gonna lie, it's really weird. Like, it's pretty obvious that Mozart was not sober while he was writing this. But the thing is, the plot's not really the point. And when the opera premiered in 1791, the audience got it. This opera is not about princes and princesses and evil queens. It's just a straight up allegory to Freemasonry. Which begs the question, what in the world is Freemasonry? Allow me to enlighten you. Get it? Because like enlightenment, all rationalism. You know what? You'll get it. I'll explain it. The Fraternal Order of Free and Accepted Masons was and still is the largest secret society in the world. Members swear an oath to devote themselves to fellowship, moral discipline, and brotherly assistance, but they hide the majority of their secret rituals from the public. In the late 1700s, when this opera premiered, Masonic lodges were having a huge boom in Austria. Men were joining up left, right, and center, including Mozart, who had joined in 1784, 7 years before the premiere of the Magic Flute. Now, some lodges did have the tendency to be a little bit mystical and occulty, but Mozart's affiliation was actually with the rationalist Enlightenment-inspired faction, also known as the... That's a drum roll. I can't be the only one who didn't know that this was actually real. But it is real, it's totally a thing, and the whole Enlightenment movement was making all kinds of these interesting ideas, like, hey, the nobility are just like everyone else, and also, wow, whether you're rich or poor doesn't necessarily mean that you're gonna be a good human. So okay, where does Freemasonry line up with the Magic Flute? Well, first there's the whole like secret society brotherhood thing. I mean, that part's pretty obvious, right? We watch the prince and the bird catcher go through a couple of trials to test whether they're worthy of the temple. Then there's this whole induction ceremony, not to mention the fact that they're all part of the Temple of the Sun, the light of the world, if you will, the enlightenment of the world, some might say. But then we also have some more subtle stuff, like the Queen of the Night. Yeah, that Queen of the Night. Now, she's the princess's mother, and, like, it's a fairy tale, right? So she's not very nice. Now, remember that whole Enlightenment, everyone's equal sort of idea? Who can we think of that might not like that idea very much? Yeah, the nobility was not about it. Like Empress Maria Theresa, Marie Antoinette's mother, and the Empress of Austria, who used her power to close all the Masonic lodges in Austria in 1763. All these Austrian Freemasons had to go into hiding all the way until 1780 when the Empress died. That's almost 20 years of hiding. But wait, okay, so 1763, then that would have been carried to 2. That would make Mozart 7 when all the lodges closed, so he definitely wasn't old enough to be a part of the Illuminati yet. But Daddy was. So Mozart probably grew up just like casually having dinner with members of the Illuminati, hearing all these stories about an empress who thought that she could just stamp out the light of the world. And then in 1791, the Queen of the Night came on stage. Now we all get the joke. Ugh, coffee. There were also a couple of Masonic Easter eggs in the score itself, like the rule of threes or some secret knocks. We'll get to all that in a second. First, we just have to take a super quick look, I promise, at how this score even came to exist and what you can expect when you go to see the show. The Magic Flute is the last opera that Mozart ever wrote before he died, with a libretto by his total BFF and Masonic brother, Emanuel Schikaneder. They had known each other for like 11 years by the time they actually sat down to write this, so it's not super hard to imagine them just like getting wasted and then writing the score. The opera opened for the public on September 30th, 1791, and Mozart himself went to go see the show pretty much every night until he died 8 weeks later at a super tragically young 35 years old. Now, whether it was the rampant rumors of poisoning that caused his death, or the popularity of the troupe, or if it was just the show itself, no one really knows, but the Magic Flute became the most popular opera Mozart had ever written pretty much overnight. Today, it's the third most performed opera on the planet. And then just before we jump over into the music here, the last thing to know is that the Magic Flute is what's called a Singspiel, which means the actors will be both singing and speaking. It's kind of like a German musical. I'm like now picturing Hamilton in German. And because the original actors and singers were all comedians, a lot of the first version of the show was improvised. And what that means for us in like 2022, or whenever you're watching this, is that directors have a lot to choose from. So in the interest of having some control over what to expect when you go to the theater, there will always be 2 acts. You may not know what language it's going to be in, but it will probably be somewhere around 3 hours long, including an intermission. Okay, so Freemasonry check, German Hamilton check. Let's jump into the music now, shall we? Look, I know what you're all here for, I got you, and we're just gonna get it out of the way so we can focus later. Queen of the Night aria, man. It's one of the most iconic arias in opera, and I think it's only gotten more popular since 1791. Even the people who say they don't like it actually secretly like it, and I know that because I used to be one of them. And like, y'all, it's okay to like popular things. You don't have to be a... I was gonna say something not real nice. It's okay to like popular things. This aria has stood the test of time for 2 centuries. 2 centuries. Let's listen to it. Okay, so right out of the gate, we know something's gonna happen. Immediately we get this tremolo in the strings, kind of like a drum roll. Then we get this pickup that launches right into the aria, the only way the queen knows that she's supposed to start singing. We're also in D minor. Now, usually D minor sounds like this. But Mozart chooses something different here. Do you hear it? Here's the normal again. And here's Mozart. This is called the melodic minor. Now, we're not going to get too deep into music theory here, I promise, but what's interesting about this choice is it foreshadows what we're about to hear. There's about to be a lot of chromaticism coming in that melody, and it's almost like Mozart's setting up our ears for that creepiness. And that matters because of the lyrics. The vengeance of hell boils in my heart. Death and despair are flaming around me. Got the queen some coffee, am I right? Everything Mozart chose here musically fits that text. Half steps sound creepy, tremolos are suspenseful. Even the rhythm that like underpins the whole thing is basically Erlkönig before Erlkönig existed. And it's all setting us up for this part here. Okay, what in the world happened there? We go from D minor to F major. And then suddenly everything is sunshine and rainbows, right? Because like it's F major, it's happy. But again, look at what she's saying. If you don't make Zarastro feel the pain of death, you'll never be my daughter again. Cheerful stuff. So why Mozart chose to do this is open to interpretation, of course, but I like to think that the queen is kind of Southern belling it up, like, well, say it with a smile, sweetie, and it can't be insult. Okay, and then we get to the good stuff. Here we go. I mean, it's so good. It's so good. Oh my God, look how many views. And you know, I wish I could say that there's some deeper meaning going on here, but like, look, sometimes we just want to flex, you know? Like, hey, Look at the crazy shit I can do with my voice. And Mozart knew that. He personally knew all the singers that were going to be singing these roles. The Queen of the Night was his sister-in-law. He knew what her voice could do. He knew audiences would lose their minds over it, and he just gave 230 years of audiences what they want. Good for him. This is actually a fun fact you can tell your friends. It'll make you very popular. Believe it or not, this is not the hard part. This is a special kind of technique called coloratura, and the sopranos who are known for it are called coloratura sopranos. But fun fact about coloratura sopranos, the coloratura part is easy for them, so we're gonna jump ahead a little bit and listen to the hard part. It's the darkness in her voice. Not only does she rapture that coloratura to the actual throne of heaven, she has so much strength and power in the parts that aren't fast. And that's hard for coloraturas. Let's compare this to another recording, this one of Nathalie Dessay. It's still good, obviously. She still sounds great, but it's missing some of that, velvet. But in this recording, I get the fireworks, of course, but I also get the night sky that highlights them. And it's super unfair because lightness is a quality that defines a coloratura voice. They're not supposed to be dark. Usually composers will write that sort of dark night sky sound into the orchestration, so coloratura sopranos will stand out on top of it. But if you're lucky enough to hear a queen like this one, who has all of that sound already in her voice, talk about perfect for the role. Queen of the Night. I feel like Mozart would have died if he had heard, well, he did die hearing it, but that's beside the point. Obviously, I could talk about this aria for way longer, but let's be honest, it's 4 minutes in a 2.5-hour opera, so we need to move on. But do let me know in the comments if you want a more detailed video about just this aria, and we can do that. All right, how much time do I have left in this video? 4 minutes. That is poor planning. Okay, there's just one other aria I want to talk about before we move on to those Masonic Easter eggs. Don't worry, I haven't forgotten. This one's called O Isis and Osiris, and it's sung by the High Priest. But it's not necessarily the aria itself that's interesting, it's more who sings it. That's an F. Now, but this is a bass roll, so it's not unexpected that there's a low note, right? Actually, yeah, and for 2 reasons even. One, operatic basses, just like all opera singers, have to be able to project their voices over an orchestra so that the whole audience can hear them without a microphone. And singing that low with that much volume is not easy, so it's not very commonly written. And 2, basses like that aren't exactly a dime a dozen. Actually, in opera, most of the roles that are written for basses are played by bass baritones because they have the range to be able to sing the low notes. They just prefer to sit in a slightly higher tessitura. It's really uncommon in opera to find a bass role that can only actually be played by a bass. It really limits the amount of singers directors can choose from. So when you go to see this show, if you're sitting in your seat and you can hear that note really well, you're listening to one of the rarest voice types in the world. Okay, now let's talk about those hidden Illuminati secrets. There's this big thing called the Rule of 3 in Freemasonry. It represented all kinds of things. The 3 pillars of strength and beauty and wisdom, the 3 temples of wisdom and nature and reason, as well as other concepts like beginning, middle, and end. Salt, pepper, and cumin, ketchup, mustard, and a white shirt. So, a little task for yourself while you're watching, try and see how many times Mozart put the Rule of 3 into the Magic Flute. 3 ladies, 3 spirits, 3 trials, and the music too. It's literally right there in the opening of the opera. 3 times, 3 notes. And it happens everywhere. So like you can entertain yourself forever trying to find all the times Mozart put 3 in here, kind of like his own little hidden Mickeys. We also have to talk about the secret Masonic knock. During the induction ceremony, a new brother has to knock on a door to be admitted to the secret chamber. And the knock was the same everywhere. It sounded like this. It always marked the start of the ceremony. Now, listen to the opening again. I mean, okay, it's not perfect, but like, come on, that's pretty close. I'll bet you all the Freemasons in the audience were smelling what Mozart was stepping in. Sorry, speaking of, my shoe is coming off. And hey, here we are. That's the Magic Flute. Of course, this is just an overview. There's a lot more to unpack around this opera. I mean, I myself have sung A Spirit, Pamina, and The Queen of the Night, and I still learned things while researching for this video. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, the music, the performance. I know there's loads I didn't touch. And that's it for now. So thanks for nerding out with me, guys, and hopefully I'll see you next time on Scores Unstitched.